What's happened?
I'm about to myself, and I just want my family to know where to find me.
On Saturday, April 27th, beautiful Mica Miller, 30, was found unalived in North Carolina. Just days before, she filed for divorce from her estranged husband, a pastor named John Paul Miller, 40, and now her family is calling for justice for Mica. So despite all the conspiracies surrounding Mica's tragic passing, in my opinion, one thing's for sure, her estranged husband, John Paul Miller, is a dangerous man. So I'm Joseph Morris. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Ring the bell. Mica's father, Michael Francis, says she was pushed to the brink and says that there were markings on her body, like bruises on her hand and a mark on her arm, like a handprint, which wasn't recorded or taken into account. On social media, Mica hinted that her husband was putting his paws on her. Her death was ruled a self-deletion by a self-pew-pew. Her dad said Mica was found in an area she would not normally frequent, the River State Park in North Carolina. A fisherman in the area said that he heard a cry and then a pew-pew go off. And I think I speak for a lot of people when I say what went down doesn't really pass the smell test. When John Paul made the announcement to his congregation, he appeared to be smiling. Mica also just sent John Paul divorce papers days before she was unalived. And after filing her divorce papers, she felt like she was being stalked. Her tires were slashed twice in a week's time. Police discovered a tire deflator had been used on her tires. And when she took her car in to be serviced, the mechanics found a tracking device on her car. And I think this was John Paul's doing, because in an email he allegedly wrote, quote, "I'm sorry for damaging your car tires, etc. If you ever come back, I will turn in both cars and get you a nice SUV or whatever car you want. Again, my horrible flesh pattern of hurting someone when they hurt me." End quote. And this sounds like a classic toxic relationship where someone will do something horrible to another person, like in this case, slash their tires, and then make it up to them as if it's somehow okay by buying them a gift. In this case, a nice SUV or whatever car she wants. So Mica called the police and told them she feared for her life. When the police showed up at the gas station, the person who was following her slowly drove by in their Honda. The police said they couldn't do anything. And I want to be clear, her estranged husband, John Paul, is not a suspect. But Mica pleaded that she knows who the suspect is and says, quote, "If you find me dead, he did it," end quote. Court papers also say that Mica told her sister that, quote, "If I end up with a bullet in my head, it was not me. It was JP," end quote. So JP sounds like it stands for John Paul, her estranged husband. At 12:12 p.m. on the day of her passing, Mica was observed on store surveillance walking into Dick's pawn shop in Myrtle Beach. But people wonder if she was buying the pew-pew to defend herself, not to unalive herself. As of yesterday, Mica's personal possessions, like her cell phone, have not been released to the family, which calls into question how her necklace ended up around her estranged husband's neck in the interviews following her tragic passing. I would like to know the answer to that question. So Mica's husband, or estranged husband, John Paul, allegedly had her committed against her will before her death, and while she was in the hospital, allegedly wiped all her devices. That sounds to me like he was potentially getting rid of key evidence, just in my opinion. Mica met John Paul when she was in the youth ministry part of the church, when she was just 14 and he was a leader in the church. And I read some reports saying that she was 10 when she met him, but people are saying that was a confusion because she met him in 2010 when she was 14. So Mica is 14 years younger than him, making him 28 at the time they first met. It sounds like this congregation stinks to high heaven because of this. Amy Smith on Twitter writes, "John Paul Miller's Solid Rock Church website is down, but thanks to the Wayback Machine, we know they have a registered offender on staff. Meet Bernard Kennerson." Wow. So since the news of Mica's passing, John Paul has been relieved from his duties, but the stain still remains on his church, Solid Rock. And it sounds like damage control to me by removing John Paul from the congregation. So Mica claimed that she was being groomed by the time she entered the church. According to her father, her demeanor changed when she got married and took a dark turn, sucking the life out of her. I'm not an expert in grooming, but I would imagine that sort of relationship where there's a power dynamic at play and your life is being controlled would have an extreme impact on one's mental health. So as the discovery of evidence of Mica's passing continues to mount, one thing stood out to me: his first wife's divorce papers. So in an affidavit from 2017, referring to events that happened 2 years earlier, his ex-wife accuses him of having relationships with girls not of age at his congregation. To me, this gives support to Mica's allegations that she was groomed from a young age, despite John Paul's lawyer refuting those claims. The document also mentioned that John Paul had a problem with ex-workers. There were also wedding photos of Mica and her first husband getting married. Turns out, Mica's first husband was John Paul's best friend, Jeremy Dees, and John Paul officiated the wedding in 2012, which honestly makes my brain hurt. Like, John Paul was marrying his best friend off to his future wife. Ouch. It also sounds like the ultimate betrayal to your best friend to marry his wife. I also can't get past how John Paul's first wife, Allison, looks very similar to Mica. Like, the eyes are the exact same. And get this, Mica was Allison's babysitter. Yeah, so Mica was babysitting their 4 children when she was having an affair with the kid's dad. So the affidavit reads, "Our separation was a result of my discovering that the defendant was having an affair with the praise and worship leader in our church, who was also the weekly babysitter of our 4 children, and the wife of his best friend. His marital misconduct not only destroyed my marriage, but also caused me to lose my church family and income, along with severely damaging the relationship between the defendant and our children." The documents added that Miller allegedly confessed to his then wife and members of the church that he had encounters with young girls from the church who were not beyond 16 years of age. Which is so gross. Like, why isn't this guy in jail? John Paul's ex-wife, Allison, walked in on Mica, her babysitter at the time, and John Paul in the act of getting it on. It seems that John Paul tends to destroy people who are around him, in my opinion. And this is backed up by Ty Longerbeam on Facebook. So Ty shared a video of John Paul having some sort of episode. So Ty writes, "Now we have the passing of your wife that you claim only took her life because of mental illness. Fact is, nobody was ever mental until they met you. You are the common denominator in all of this. This video is only proof that you yourself have issues and you know what medication can do to someone. Imagine being in a vulnerable state like this and being met with control, manipulation, and shame. What's the long-term effect on that? Now add putting your paws on someone on top of that. All forms that may apply. Who can handle that? Yet you were met with a soft tone and a water bottle that you didn't deserve." So this post goes on, and it links a video down below.
If Mark can't make it quick, you want me to get your mom over here?
I don't want my mom anywhere in the church. It's crazy. I always told everybody to get on medication, and this is what it does. Crazy.
So in that disturbing video, he sounds like Mickey Mouse saying that he's going to go see Jesus. It's very weird, and I'm not too sure the backstory on it. There was also a resurfaced video of Mica and John Paul having a fight, and this is so bad. So to get back at his wife at the time, he posted pictures of her in a state of undress on Facebook.
Walk away.
I'll show you the pictures.
Do you want to go to jail?
They'll be on Facebook in a few hours.
Alrighty, you'll be in jail in a few hours. Walk away.
In an email to Mica, he apparently omits to sharing revenge porn of her, which is illegal in North Carolina. Reading, quote, "I'm sorry for putting a picture of you on the internet. It was for less than 1 hour and immediately taken down. I was hurt that you were telling everyone horrible, intimate details of my past sin, and I just want to try and hurt you. Please forgive me. It was evil of me to do that." End quote. And it sounds to me like this relationship is so incredibly toxic. He's completely breaking her down. And this is so tragic to think about how this relationship ended. Police reports say that he was with a woman at the time of Mica's passing, and speculation was that this woman was his girlfriend who can corroborate his alibi. The other evidence of John Paul at this sporting event was his black truck on the highway on Sunday, the day after Mica passed, which was tinted black, and it's impossible to tell if he's in it. So right now, just to sum things up, his only alibi from what the police shared was his alleged girlfriend's statement and this sketchy photo of his truck on the highway.
Do you know what athletic event the husband was supposed to be at?
We don't right now, nor did authorities release any information, just that he was there with the woman he was allegedly involved with, using Robeson County detectives' words. And that video, the picture that you just saw, the truck coming back, that was apparently in the afternoon coming back to Horry County, I believe on Sunday, if I'm not mistaken. So that's kind of the timeline that the authorities have released and put out, and the whereabouts and locations of.
Whoa. That truck is tinted black. How do I know who's in it? And also, how do I know he was at an athletic event? And was he there the whole time?
Yeah, those are all really good questions. I mean, I would like to know everything about this athletic event, if he was actually there or not, and if he could have just easily have snuck out and got his girlfriend to drive his truck back home for him. I mean, just going back to that fisherman who said he heard a scream and a pew-pew go off. Like, there's something just really sketchy about this entire story. So what I found most alarming, though, was that John Paul had his estranged wife cremated.
As a lot of y'all may or may not know, J.P. Miller has allegedly been trying to get Mica cremated, and the family has been fighting it. It's also been alleged that if the family wanted to see the body, that J.P. Miller was making them sign a consent to cremate before they did. And basically what that consent would do would be taking away any legal action that they would have in order to try to postpone any type of services happening to those remains, such as cremation. Well, with all of that said, apparently Mica has been cremated. This is confirmed, which means that there will be no opportunity for a second autopsy, any type of toxicology, or anything else that could be done to show any signs outside of just a self-inflicted wound. In my personal opinion, I feel like having her body cremated this early on is premature with everything that's surrounding this case. But also it kind of makes you wonder or think, why would somebody be rushing so much to have somebody cremated, especially when they're trying to get into their apartment and get all of their stuff? It just kind of makes you wonder. Not saying that he's responsible or anything like that. It's just things that make you go,
So regardless of the conspiracies, a source told dailymail.com, quote, "Miller needs to have some accountability, just in the fact that if he pushed her over the edge, he's responsible. He's a wolf in sheep's clothing and a false prophet. If she took her own life, he pushed her to it. His hands are all over this. He's mentally and emotionally responsible." End quote. Yeah, and just based on this public information, I can see where this source is coming from. My heart goes out to Mica Miller's family and this tragedy. Rest in peace, beautiful Mica. Please leave a comment down below, and if you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit my face here.